So ladies and gentlemen, with that very, very motivating and very, very inspiring start, we move on to the next topic and the next speaker. Our next speaker joined ITC Limited in 1986 and was appointed as a whole-time director on the board of ITC in 2018. An alumnus of the National Institute of Technology, Durgapur, he has experience in several ITC divisions like tobacco and food. In fact, in 2004, he was the man behind the launch of several successful brands such as Bingo. He has been managing director of ITC Infotech until 2014 and currently heads and oversees several ITC divisions including education and stationery products and personal care. The paperboard and packaging business is in a division titled Trade Marketing and Distribution. Presently, he is the chairman of ITC Fiber Innovations Limited and also serves as a member of the CII Eastern Region Council. Wow, this man has some colossal experience on various sectors, various verticals of the industry. Indeed, it is an honor and privilege for me to introduce Mr. Sumant Bhargavan. Ladies and gentlemen, a huge round of applause for Mr. Sumant Bhargavan.
Thank you, Mehul, and good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I think it's an impossible act to follow somebody like Mustafa, and what an inspiring story. You know, I don't have anything of that kind. The only connection I have with Mustafa is I also come from the state of Kerala, but further down south in Trivandrum. So, yeah, and the NIT connection, yes, of course, yeah. So I wanted to just quickly run through some of the things I've done, and maybe it'll be relevant to all of you. I started way back in 1986, and when we joined ITC those days, you learned by doing. You know, so you actually did every single job in the plant. So I've received material, unloaded it, stacked it in the warehouse, taken it to the production line in a tractor, fed it into the lines, been into every single equipment, and you learn by doing every single job in the plant. We followed the salesman to the market. I was in the tobacco division those days, so you follow the salesman and you sell cigarettes on a cycle, outlet to outlet, right? You also go back to the farm and see how farmers grow tobacco, how they harvest it, how they cure it, how it goes to the auction and comes into the plant. And what I realized is that we were learning, and there were no notes, no manuals. We used to put chalk on the motor plate to see what is the RPM of the motor or use a tachometer. We had to figure out from first principle. So I think what we learned really was how to learn, how to observe, how to learn, and that was a very, very powerful, source of inspiration for us. The other thing we also learned is when you do everybody's job, you have a deep respect for what somebody does. Right? Because you know exactly what it takes to do that job, and everything looks easy from the outside, but when you actually do it, it's a completely different ball game, and that came in very handy. In my first 19 years was in manufacturing. I used to work in all the plants. I got transferred around. When you talk to unions, when you talk about new work processes, we had one simple method: "Chalo karke dikhate hain." You know, so when you can actually do and demonstrate, a lot of the arguments and discussion gets killed. Because if you can do and demonstrate, you've made the point, you've made the case. Right? So I found this as a very, very useful foundational block. And let me just walk you through our quality journey. You know, those days, we were number one in quality. Competition was not very strong. But we used to talk about quality, but not do too much. And most of our focus was how to run the machines better, get more efficiency, reduce waste, and so on. Then we came out with something called the product quality rating system, where every single aspect of the product and the pack was broken down into quality elements, and there was a scoring mechanism. What this did is immediately it quantified what was your quality score. And we were shocked. Our quality score was 50, even though we were market leaders. So we immediately put up a campaign. And now how do you motivate people when you are better than competition and you're already the market leader? What we said is, let's start internal competition. We had 4 plants, and then you're competing now against equals, your peers who are running the same technology, the same capability as you, and then it became a complete race to improve. So I had a campaign. I was in the Munger factory in Bihar, and I said 75 by March, and we drove quality. right up. So one of the things we realize is when you're focusing on quality, right? We used to do downtime measurements and so on. But we realize when you address quality, efficiency measurement, downtime measurement is like taking the pulse. When you measure quality and you immediately relate it to a machine condition, and you say, acha, if this defect, this is the problem, isko theek karo. It's like doing a CT scan, right? So as we fix the quality problems, our scores went up to 75, and today they are 98, 99. The machine performance automatically went up because you are fixing anything that impacts quality, impacts efficiency, it impacts waste. And then we look back, we had those quality scores, but we had outstanding efficiency scores. We had very, very low waste rates. So I think it's always good to quantify. The first step in quality is you quantify it right down to the most fine detail and then work on it. You know, we did a lot of things to build a quality culture, right? We said, okay, we are best in the market, but we want to be, the international brands will come, our market share will get threatened. So how do we gear up? So we said, okay, let's go and export in the most toughest market in the world. So we said we'll export to the US market. We started exporting to the US market and we quickly realized our quality was nowhere, right? Until 1991, we couldn't import technology. There were a lot of restrictions, but after 1991, we could. So we started getting the latest generation machines from Germany, Italy, and so on. And we found there was a significant improvement in quality, right? So we used to send our technicians and our shop floor managers for training. They came back well-trained. But we said, how do we raise the bar for the entire plant? How do we change the mindset of the shop floor worker, of the union members? So one of our directors came up with this idea. He said, let's start inspirational tours, right, to change the mindset. What do you mean by a world-class factory? You have to see one to know what it means. So we identified a factory in Singapore. And why Singapore? Because Singapore as a city was extremely clean, extremely disciplined. And in that factory, 2 Singaporean women were running a machine, whereas I had 4 hatta operators running the same machine in my plant in Kedapur. So we said, let them go and see, they'll also feel ashamed, you know. If 2 ladies can do it, then why can't 2 men do it here, you know? So we also wanted to pass that message. We were a little worried because we were sending union members and opinion leaders who chew pan, they'll spit somewhere. We were afraid they'll get arrested in Singapore. So me and my HR manager, we designed the entire trip. And we sent batches of people from all our plants to Singapore. And you'll be amazed at the kind of results. You know, I remember the team coming back. I used to run the Kedapur factory those days. This was 97, 98. And they came back and told me, hey, sir, hum Kedarpur ko Singapore banayenge. You know, and sure enough, the quality, the hygiene levels in the plant, the discipline levels in the plant, the upkeep in places like the canteen went up significantly. So when you told somebody world class, they said, Singapore jaise. You know, so it was a way in which we completely transformed the mindset. Today we have plants which are on par with any plant in the world, but it took, you know, these steps to kind of transform the mindset. And this approach actually has helped me in a lot of my other assignments. So after about 19 years in tobacco, then I moved to foods and I was asked to find a new area to diversify into. And so I decided to focus on snack foods. And I spent about 1.5, 2 years going from city to city, eating the local street food to see what are the tastes, the popular street food in every city. We used to go and look at what people are eating. We used to have focus group discussions. And I still remember I had gone to Ahmedabad. My marketing head was Ravi Joshi. He was from, Ravi Desai, he was from Ahmedabad. He said, look, I'll take you to the shop called Indu Ben Khakrawala. You know, small hole-in-the-wall shop, but those days, wo cyclo style mein hota tha. She had 155 khakras. I said, 155 khakras? What is going on? You know, normal khakra with methi and then even Shezwan and Manchurian khakra. So I said, why do people need 155 khakras? Then it struck us, you know, when it comes to food, right? We all grow up with a genetic programming. there are some ingredients that we like and we only want to have that. The person who wants to eat khakra only wants to eat khakra. Lekin he said, yaar, bore ho gaya, kuch naya do. What he means, in khakra, give me a new flavor. He doesn't want to eat something else. So we realized that there are certain base ingredients that keep you loyal. And there are some flavor ingredients that keep you excited. So we said in khakra, typically you take a chapati, you press it on a pan, put a little this thing and press it till it becomes dry enough so it can last for a long time. But in the process of pressing, you create a multi-layered texture and there's a khar texture. We said that is an important ingredient. Yeah, that same texture. Similarly, familiar ingredients like besan and so on. You know, different parts of the country, like the South eats very rice-based snacks. West eats a lot of besan-based. If you go to the North, it is fried matri, samosas, all fried maida notes. So we said, can we take familiar ingredients, familiar textures, and then variant around the shape and the flavors? So we came up with Mad Angles, which was the first product of its kind, multi-layered texture, triangular shape, exciting shape, lots of flavors, but very familiar ingredients and very familiar texture. And the more research we did in snacking is, even the crunch, there is psychological satisfaction in that vibration that you get, right? And if you're building for the South, you need a very hard bite. People are used to rice, muruku and all these, which are hard bite, right? So unless it's hard bite, they say, nahi, ye theek nahi hai. West is very soft bite. North is kind of in between. And it goes on into, what kind of oils you use, what kind of notes you have. So you really have to get into the nuances. Like when I was developing snack food, we were lucky we have a hotels business. So I used to go to the hotel after the restaurant hours. I tell the chef, let's make all the gravies in India. Okay, and we used to dip the chip into different gravies to see, which masala goes well with which product. And for every region. So when we launched, I launched with 3 different masalas. Lay's was monolithic. So what we said is we had a strategy. We said, okay, how do we make one of the things we had to do in foods was we came up into a market where ITC said we should get into FMCG. But when we arrived, there were dominant players in every category. Atta had Annapurna, Pillsbury, Shakti Bhog. In snacks, we had Lay's, who was like 85% market share in potato chips. In noodles, Maggi was by far 80 plus share, right? So we had, in biscuits, Britannia and Parle were ruling. So we had no choice but to innovate. If you have to get into the market also, you have to innovate, right? So I'll take you through some of the innovation approaches that we took. So if you look at atta, right? Everybody, what is there in atta? You buy wheat, you grind it, and it becomes atta, right? Go to a chakki, you can grind it and make atta. But we said, no, we are not making atta. We are trying to make an atta which will give us soft roti, which if you keep for some time will remain soft, right? So we actually tested varieties of wheat. We came up with unique blends, the kind of wheat people eat, rotis people eat. In the south, they want very soft rotis. In the north, they want a little more kadak roti. So we came up with different blends for each region. We buy all the critical grades at the time of harvest, and the mass grades we buy during the season. Everybody else buys whatever they can at the lowest price from the market, converts it into atta, but we have formulations and we have grades which are designed to make sure that whichever bag of atta you buy, you'll get the same soft roti that remains soft for a long time. That promise of a consistent soft roti is what we were delivering, not just atta, right? Now, it costs a lot of money to play out this strategy because you have to buy wheat during harvest, all the critical grades, you have to store it for the whole year, and you have to blend it. Everybody else is buying from the market, converting and undercutting you on margins. So it takes a lot of determination to stay the course that no, we believe in our approach, in our promise to the consumer, and we will be consistent. Today, Ashirwad Atta is what? 40% plus market share. It is by far the leader in the country. Most other brands have actually become very small or vanish because all of them are selling atta. We are selling a soft, consistent chapati, right? So you have to find your insight and you have to stay true to it, right? And you will be tested. Your margins will be tested. there will be bad years when the crop is bad or there will be surplus years when you bought in the start of the season, uske baad price goes down significantly and you're taking a huge hit because your competition is able to buy it at a low price and undercut you in the market. So you have to ride out these cycles. Today we charge a premium of about 3 rupees per kg and the consumer willingly gives us. And let me tell you, the Indian housewife will not give you 1 paisa more. She is the most value conscious, sharp buyer in the world, right? But she gives us that extra because she says, with this, my roti tastes good, my kids love the food that they're eating, right? I'll give another example of noodles. When we came into noodles, Maggi was dominating the market. So we said, how do we find space? What insight can we come up with? So we looked at what are the problem mothers face. We said the biggest problem a mother faces is, how do I get the child to eat? Bacha khata hi nahi hai, right? So we said, okay, let's make the food fun to eat. What if the noodles were long and they can play with the noodles? And when we did some research, we found kids like to play with their food. And noodles are good to play with if they're long and if they're not sticky, right? Then we found the mothers had to, the other noodles were just masala, so the mothers were boiling vegetables and adding it to the noodles to make it a healthy snack. So we said, okay, we'll come up with long, non-sticky noodles, and we will add dehydrated vegetables so that there's no extra work. So how do you get long, non-sticky noodles? If you'll see how noodles are made, it's a rectangular block. You have to break the noodles and put it into the patila because all patilas are round, right? Put it in that and then you have to cook it. So we said, okay, we need a round block which can go into the patila without breaking. So we went and met the Japanese equipment manufacturers and got a line which makes round blocks. And till date, we are the only ones who make round blocks. So the mother doesn't have to break the cake. You drop the whole cake into the water, cook it. It also has dehydrate, so there's vegetables. So it's a complete meal. And we change the process so that the noodles are not sticky. Even if I put it in your tiffin box and you eat it 3 hours later in the break, it won't become a lump. It's nice and, non-sticky. So that was the insight with which we launched EP noodles, targeted at the child segment, the children's segment, tiffin box usage and so on. And today, EP is by far the leader in the children's segment, right? And we have 20% share of the overall noodle market. And that came from that little insight of how do we make it different and useful, right? So in all of these businesses, what we've realized is you have to go and observe consumers and how they use the product to find that little space for innovation. Even in biscuits, we innovated a lot. Biscuits, unfortunately, is a segment where the product is defined by a category. If you're making a Marie biscuit, it is called Marie, it has to be a Marie biscuit. You make a cream biscuit, it has to be cream. Okay, cookie is cookie, right? So even in Marie, when we launched, we said, let's differentiate. So we said, okay, why do people eat Marie? They want a light biscuit. So we came up with a Marie Light. Then we came up with a Marie Orange and with a Marie Oats, just to differentiate, right? In cream, everybody had a sandwich cream. We did some research internationally and he came up with this Danish technology which is center-filled. And we came up with Dark Fantasy Chocofill, which was the first in the market and today is a leader in its space. So you have to find, opportunities and niches which are relevant to the customer and then build on it. And I think that's how we've actually gone about building the foods business. Today, our FMCG business is about 20,000 crores and we are one of the largest in the country. All our brands are home built from the ground up based on consumer insighting, research, working the market, understanding what people eat, and then building products from ground up. And I think there is no substitution to actually observing and finding an insight. And then, like Mustafa said, you have to make sure that your product is the best. You've got to keep testing, researching till you hit that product, which is an absolute wow. Right? And that's key. So that's been my journey in foods. And after that, I moved on I did home and personal care for a while. And we decided not to go ahead with it. I was looking at the laundry segment and I did research for about 9 months, made products and recommended that we not get into it because it's highly commoditized, right? And then I moved on to IT and I ran the IT business for about 5.5 years. came back into ITC and worked on the FMCG businesses. Now I oversee paperboard, packaging, personal care, education and stationery, and trade marketing and distribution. So it's a wide portfolio that I oversee. And today I'm here in 3 avatars. You know, one of the businesses I work with is our paperboard business, who's a supplier to many of you in the audience. Venki, my colleague, runs the printing and packaging business, who's a colleague of all of you, right? And I also oversee the FMCG businesses, who are large buyers of packaging material. I truly believe that the way we are going and where the industry is going, the trend is towards sustainability. We believe that sustainability is going to be a huge trend. And for all of us in the packaging business, we need to start looking at how to make our packaging more sustainable. As a company, I know all our brands are now wanting to get as sustainable as possible. I have the personal care brand who says, look, my shower gel has got 50% recycled content. The foods business recently launched some products. You know, Farm Light, we've got the outer packaging, it's 100% paper, right? They came up with a Ashirwad 5 kg atta bag, which is 50% paper, right? And in our direct-to-home model, which is the Meri Chakki model for atta, we use bags which have 70% paper content. So I think the future is about how can we go to monolayer plastics, recycled content in packaging, and the movement towards substituting plastic with paper. And I think we're doing a lot of work from our side on, you know, coatings. How do you get the moisture barrier properties, the oxygen barrier properties required when you use a substrate like paper, and the sealability as well. So we're working on a variety of coatings which are compostable and so on, which we can then use to convert plastic packaging into paperboard. And I think that's going to be a huge move forward. We're putting a fiberboard plant, which is going to try and replace plastics with molded fiberboard. And the difference is we're going to have high precision molding, so you can get contours, shapes, etc., which will allow you to do precision molding and replace a lot of plastic inserts typically that you see. We've seen international examples where even cosmetic boxes and others are made out of fiberboard, and the finish is so good that it just replaces hard plastic. So as a group, we believe that brands are going to insist on your packaging being sustainable. And as a packaging and a paperboard manufacturer, we believe it's critical that we start producing the kind of substrates and the material that will allow industry to make that transition. And I'm sure all of you in the audience are working on how to get there, right? So that's all that I had to say.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sumant. So we have a key takeaway. Even a giant like ITC, they need to study the customer. What the customer wants is the most important thing, and that's what we can take away from Mr. Sumant's talk. We printers need to look at our customers, identify what their needs are, provide solutions. I think that's what is coming out from the talk of Mr. P.C. Mustafa and now Mr. Sumant. Thank you very much, Mr. Sumant. Could I request Mr. Amit Shah to be coming on the stage to please felicitate Mr. Sumant?
I must say one thing, you know, in the journey towards sustainability, Amit's been a key partner. We've come up with this multi-layer board called sign-up board, and the attempt is to replace all merchandising material. You've seen standees, you've seen these the merchandising display racks that you see in outlets. You see the edge strips which are made typically of plastic, which is laminated. So Amit and we are working together to replace all of this with sign-up board, with printed, you know, signages, completely biodegradable, entirely made of paper. And I think he's doing a pioneering job in helping companies convert. So thank you, Amit, for that. Amit.
Thank you, Mr. Sumant. Thank you, Amit.